Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. We will begin shortly. Thank you. We'll wait a bit more. We'll start in about 5 minutes. And we will begin with some introductory remarks from Perry Russell. Who will start, we will start in 5 minutes. In one or 2 minutes. Hi, everyone who has just joined. As we will wait for the view count to be like a bit more, so that we can start soon. Please, we are launching our iMAP reports, Internet Censorship reports covering 9 countries. In this session, yeah, we'll begin soon. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Yes, we are starting soon. I hope you can hear me. Please feel free to, if there are any issues, you can write your comment in the chat box as we go through the session. We will have a short introductory remarks by Khairul Yusuf, our coordinator at Sinar Project, and then followed by some slides on the key findings by me. And then we will have a panel discussion with some of our iMAP partners who will join us in a panel discussion led by Numan Akifi, our moderator. And then we will have a Q&A session. Yeah, I think we can begin soon. Thank you for waiting. Yeah, so I'll give the stage to Karen also.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, wherever you're joining us from all the different time zones around the world. I'm Kyle Youssef. I'm the coordinator at Student Project, and I'm very excited to welcome you to the Internet Monitoring Action Project 2024 reports launch. A little bit about iMAP. The iMAP project is a project that aims to build movements of digital rights activists through regional and in-country networks that actively monitor network interference and restrictions to freedom of expression using open observatory network tools or ONI. Um, as well as additional testing tools from other partners. This year's report covers the period from July 2023 to June 2024 of this year, and it covers Cambodia, Hong Kong, um, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. This is now our third edition of the reports. As is in previous reports, we have reported on the state of internet censorship in each country, covering the blocking of websites, instant messaging, and circumvention tools. For this year, we've added an additional section on internet shutdowns and content takedowns to complement the findings from the UNI lists. It has been a massive effort. For this period alone, over 33 million tests were run, covering over 30,000 web domain and addresses. Um, during the coverage period, of which the project detected over 2,053 website domains that were confirmed blocked or most likely to be blocked from our data analysis. Some key findings for you. We found newly during this period again. We found newly blocked websites found in Malaysia, Myanmar, Indonesia, Hong Kong, India, and Vietnam. While no new censorship or sites were blocked or detected in Thailand, Philippines, and Cambodia, the website blocking for known sites that have been blocked still persists in these countries as well. Um, Out of all the types of different categories that have been blocked, most were related to pornography and gambling. However, it should be noted that news and political criticisms were found to sites related to news and political criticisms were found to be blocked in every country covered by these reports. Um, the key technical method of blocking that we found from this research was primarily through DNS tampering or hijacking, where network providers would serve a block page and users would get a result of an address not found, errors, or sometimes redirected to unknown pages if as well. Um, Out of all the countries covered, while countries like Indonesia and Vietnam released official block lists, most government authorities or network providers in the region did not actively notify when they censor critical or non-malicious websites. So as a result, um, efforts like this project to uncover and confirm through technical testing and data incidences of internet censorship are critical when there's a lack of transparency on exactly what is happening. Before we go through, I'd like to highlight our key partners for which this all these reports would not have been possible. Um, first up, all of our iMAP partners, Engage Media, who covers Philippines and Indonesia, Advocacy and Policy Institute or API from Cambodia, the Thai Netizens Network from Thailand, the Center for Internet and Society or CIS from India, and our anonymous and brave researchers who cover Myanmar, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. We've also would like to thank our longtime partners, the Open Observatory for Network Interference, or more popularly known as UNI, and also everyone in all the countries around the regions, as well as around the world, who installed the UNI tools, probe whether it's on mobile, on their desktops, or on on computers, on their servers and devices, who helped run to these tests so that we have enough data to do the analysis. Um, we will be you'll hear as part of the launch from our team on the key findings of the report. And we'll also have a panel discussion from our country partners and researchers. So today we have our partners and researchers from the Advocacy and Policy Institute Cambodia, their director Sochit Lam. We have Kyril Zafri, the specialist for open and secure technology at Engage Media. We have our technologists at CNR Project, CD Norliza, who has been key and instrumental in coordinating and analyzing the data for these reports. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce also Newman Afifi, our program officer at CNR Project, who will be moderating this session. Note that there will be time for Q&A after the discussion. Newman, over to you.
Okay, hi everyone. Sorry, it's actually me who will do the presentations. So let me share my slides. Hi everyone. My name is Siti, and thank you again for joining our launch online event here on YouTube. Again, I just like to remind everyone that if you can access our reports at the QR, I think on the screen or on our iMAP website that we have provided in the chat box. And if you have any questions, feel free to just ask questions in the chat box, and one of us will answer them in the Q&A session. This is our third series edition of the reports, as mentioned by Kyril. And we will, so I will start first by briefly explaining about what is iMAP for those who are not familiar with what is iMAP, and what the tools we use, how we collect the data, how we analyze the data, and then we go into more of the findings for 2024. So on iMAP, iMAP stands for Internet Monitoring Action Project, and our objective is to promote and defend internet freedoms by pursuing the following objectives, as you see in the slides. We want to establish regional and in-country networks of digital rights activists that are specific to these 9 countries that we have partnered with to monitor internet censorship in order for the data to be used as advocacy for other people. And in the end, our hope is that we will enable a freer internet platform around in these countries. So we currently have covered 9 countries. If you were here last year, we covered actually 10 countries, including Timor-Leste, but it was only for a one-time report. Whereas for this year, we cover 9 countries: Myanmar, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Philippines, and also India and Hong Kong. So and some of these partners are public facing, and some of them are also anonymous due to security reasons. What we do at iMAP is we try to build a movement. We try to go to many events, and we try to build capacity to understand the terms that are related to internet censorship, and to understand what it is about, what it is, like how to do the testing and how to monitor it, and how to update the test list. We monitor the internet censorship using a tool called Uni. I think Uni team is also worth watching. So Uni is a tool that is available to download on the mobile and also desktop, and we use that. It is available to any Android or iOS or even Windows platforms that you can download, and then it will you can run tests on internet censorship there to check whether a website is blocked or not. So we use these tools as part of our monitoring process, and then we collect the data, and then annually we do activities like this. We will write and launch the reports on the state of internet censorship in each of the countries. We will also do ad hoc monitoring. For last year, we had a few elections going on in a few countries, and we will monitor to see whether there is any blocking of internet during the period of critical events such as elections or any critical political events. We will also do for any sudden blockings. We especially in Malaysia, we frequently write censorship alerts to highlight any particular website blocking on our website. And I'll explain a bit about UNI. So UNI is available anywhere in the world. There are some countries that are blocked, but it's not blocked yet in any of the iMAP countries. And it is a tool to use to measure internet censorship. So it only covers blocking of websites, some messaging apps, some censorship circumvention tools, also known as VPNs. And these are the coverage of what UNI can collect the data to. So it cannot collect data like content takedown or if there is any posts or video takedown on YouTube or Facebook or so on. UNI cannot detect that as of now. But it can detect whether a website is down or an app such as Facebook messaging app or Signal is down or censored by the government or the network provider. So this is how UNI collects the data. So first, one person would click, there is an automatic function where you can click on run automatic testing so that you can run the websites automatically, and it will run the websites from the test list in GitHub or in the UNI in a database on GitHub. Or we can also custom some websites lists to run on UNI so that we can check whether these websites are censored or not. And then we can run the test using UNI Probe or the desktop. And then finally, we have the data available on UNI Explorer, which is UNI's dashboard to analyze the data. So for the reports, this is the rough, the basic outline of the coverage and also the methodology that we use in the report. It is very, it has become more detailed as we go, and that's why the methodology in the reports get longer each year. But basically, this is if you are not interested in if you are interested in the details, you can go to the reports and see. But for this particular presentation, it's just covering 9 countries and 1 year. It's not exactly it's not exactly 2024. It's from 2023, second half of 2023 to the first half of 2024. And we have a few tables in there that you might be interested in. We calculate the anomaly ratio, that is the likelihood of a website being blocked. Or we also have domains that we identify as confirmed or likely blockings by categories like pornography, political criticism, LGBT, and so on. We have also analyzed the method of blocking, and addition for this year is that we also included some research findings on content takedown and internet shutdown just to complement some of the findings, although these are only available in selected countries. So I will now proceed to the key findings. So I think I will also mention this, but thank you to all the volunteers who have downloaded the app and have also run the test in these 9 countries. We actually found that there were more than 31,000 domains that were found tested, collected 33 billion tests in the 1 year period. And among these 31,000 domains, only 2,000 domains, about 2,000 domains were found as confirmed or likely censorships. Although the number is very small, and actually note that it's not the entire internet that we have tested, and there are also some duplicates that we need to be cautious about the numbers. But this is the rough number of the findings that we got. And some general observations is that all 9 countries recorded some sort of website censorship. And Myanmar and India recorded some censorship on instant messaging apps and also some VPNs, as well as events of internet shutdowns where internet connectivity is suddenly not available. Contact takedown is found in at least 5 countries: Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, India, Cambodia, and also Hong Kong. This is where posts on social media or some of the platforms like YouTube were found to be taken down as per instruction from a government or from an authority. And we have found that the categories blocked, while there are censorship in all countries, the categories differ slightly, where all countries except Hong Kong has blocked porn, gambling, porn and gambling, but only Hong Kong only blocks political criticism and also news website, as well as government and military related websites. And for Myanmar and India, they are also, as mentioned, they also block social media websites as well as some VPN tools. Methods of blocking: most censorship were done using DNS tampering, but there were also some instances where we found that they are still blocking HTTP, where for websites that are still HTTP protocol. For those who are familiar with these terms. And some other countries, a few countries also found using the TLS or TCP methods, where the website is just suddenly not available. In terms of block notice, some of the countries have full block lists. They publish full block lists, in particular Indonesia, which has the trust positive block list, although now it is only available for Indonesian IP addresses. But for other countries, most of the countries, they only would publish block lists, usually when the public would ask for it, or like in the case of India, they have a RTI, or right to information law, and so they were able to get some sort of block list in previous time. Although some other times where they try to request for it, the government wouldn't want to provide the list. Myanmar and also Vietnam also release some of the websites that are blocked. They call it the blacklist. For Vietnam, they only release dangerous websites such as scam websites. And in Philippines, there was a court order to block some of the websites that were deemed controversial, or some independent news websites last year. There were also blog pages in some of the countries where as seen in these slides, where it will say that the website is not available due to a blocking order and so on. But there are also some countries like Malaysia and Cambodia where there is no such blog pages, and if you don't do any research or look at the news, you wouldn't even know that the website is blocked. So as mentioned, there are 5 countries that we identified new or significant blockings. Like India, we have news websites blocked, and we also have some eSIMs services that were found blocked. In Malaysia, some independent news websites like Utusan TV, Malaysia Now, and also Guangming Daily were found blocked. And another new significant blocking was Grindr, the dating app, was also found blocked. In Myanmar, the censorship has become worsened, and more of the communication platforms, like very critical ones like Facebook, Signal and WhatsApp are not available, and VPNs are the only way that they can use to access these platforms. But these VPNs are also increasingly being censored, including Siphon and Nord recently. And Indonesia continues to block more websites, and it is also very random and sometimes very for a very short time that we couldn't capture it. For last, I think for the during the previous coverage, we found that there was blocking of X because of the changing of name from Twitter to X, and because they defined it as a malicious website, it was blocked temporarily. So this kind of websites, when they enter the trust positive ISPs or network providers in Indonesia, would block the websites by referring to this list. And there were also reports by some communities that there were that the government is implementing more stringent mechanisms like DNS hijacking and also IP blocking in the planning. In Hong Kong, where the security law there is a new security law, we were found that with 3 active domains are now blocked. Previously, we found that most of the websites in Hong Kong were dormant now or inactive. But this year, we found that 3 of the domains are now being actively blocked in China and in Hong Kong, and they are not available in some networks. So, for the conclusion and recommendations from these findings is that we want the governments to be transparent in implementing internet censorship, and we hope that anyone who watches, who reads the document or who reads our reports, to use the reports. And also, we want as many people to collect the data, to download the UNI tool, and to contribute to the project. And and if you are interested to contribute to the project, this is the links provided by UNI. You can join our discussions. You can install the app. You can contribute to the test list, the list of websites to test for censorship. You can help us analyze the UNI data so that more eyes is better, so that we can make sure that data is more accurate, and we can tell stories about all these findings. As mentioned, again, Uniprobe is available the easiest way would be downloading on your mobile phone, or you can also download it on your Windows, Mac, or Linux PC. If you are more technical, feel free to reach out to UNI or us, and we can also explore more options to do more experimental tests. And this is a slight spoiler or teaser. After this report, we will also launch a thematic report on anonymization and circumvention tools, where we will analyze further on the blocking of VPNs in iMAP countries. And following the recent DNS hijacking event in Malaysia, we will also publish a short report just to document the whole event. Thank you very much for going through this presentation with me. You can now, as mentioned again, let me repeat that you can now download our reports at imap.sinaproject.org. Again, thank you to UNI for being a huge help, and all of course, our iMAP partners, API, CIS, Engage Media, and also Thai Netizens. And a small note is that in the website, there are still the executive summary, which will be the regional report, and also the full report for Thailand will be available soon. Sorry about that. And yeah, but for now, you can view all the other country reports on the website. Yeah. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put in the chat, and we can answer that during the panel session later. Okay. Now let me invite the panel to the stage.
Right. Thank you, Siti. for that fantastic presentation. City has been doing a lot of the data analysis, and you can see a lot of that work through that presentation. As introduced by Khairil earlier, we have three distinguished panelists who will be talking more in depth about the reports that we just released. So first, we have Sochit Lam from Cambodia with Advocacy and Policy Institute, Khairi Zafri with Engage Media, as well as our very own city, Nurliza Samsudin with Sina Project. So we have around 35 minutes for this discussion to talk more in depth about what we found throughout this past year. So I want to start with Sochit. Are you online right now? Oh,
Yes, good
okay,
afternoon. I'm Sujit Lam from API Cambodia.
right. Okay, so I wonder if you can share a little bit of summary on the landscape, the current landscape of internet censorship in Cambodia in general. Let's start with that.
Yeah, we thanks for organizing this launching event. API Advocacy and Policy Institute Cambodia conducted running only more than 2.4 million times for last year's and of around 2,000 websites in Cambodia. So we found 65 websites were blocked and lightly blocked, and most of them are news, independent new media article websites from last year during general election in July 2023 that most of independent media were blocked or lightly blocked for some part or some times, and also the human rights organization and activists and the environmental activists website. That's what we found that still recently that those websites still blocked or likely blocked, especially in Cambodia. It was more likely blocked by the internet service providers that a number of company that operating in Cambodia providing internet service. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Sachit, for that background. Let's move on to Indonesia. Khairil Zafri have been monitoring tech regulation, internet censorship in Indonesia. Um, I think recently, as last year, there's an election as well in Indonesia. So, how recent government policies have impacted internet freedom in the country, and what do you think or foresee as the main challenges in the coming years?
Hi, thank you, Newman. So broadly speaking, there are three challenges that I think we need to pay attention to when it comes to Indonesia. One is the securitization approach to regulating the internet. So this is not something unique to Indonesia alone, but I think it's a country with a lot of competing interests. It'd be tough for Indonesia to resist kind of treating harmful risks on the internet as external threats that require, more heavy-handed laws. So here we're talking about things like ransomware attacks, phishing scams, online misinformation, system dissemination, things like those, which there's a tendency for the state to introduce new laws in the name of cybersecurity or online safety, right? And with all the hype on AI, we do not want the government to kind of just jump into enacting a whole new regulatory framework without taking into account more sensible approach of, for example, reviewing existing laws and regulation dealing with personal data protection, with consumer protection online, enforcing greater platform accountability, parental responsibility, reforming digital labor, and securing, digital ID systems, looking at gaps in protections generally. The second thing that I think we have to pay attention to is the confidence in the democratic institution needs to be restored. In recent years, like you've mentioned, we've seen elections, and we've also seen how decisions by the Constitutional Court favoring certain political elites have eroded public trust in the institution, right? So, of course, the Constitutional Court is quite separate from the rest of the judiciary, but I think with the new President Probo coming to power with a strong electoral mandate, with his allies consolidating power in the legislature, and with a weakened opposition coalition, Indonesia needs a more effective checks and balances now. So many Indonesian activists that we've spoken to are concerned that democracy in the country will backslide even further under the new president. And finally, the narrowing civic space. I think the new government is very ambitious, has a lot of ambitious policies when it comes to social welfare. So these kind of policies, they will not only cost a lot of money, but attract political criticisms, right? So take, for example, the policy to provide free meals to school children. It's a huge undertaking, and no doubt there will be weaknesses in terms of implementation, in terms of planning. So the worry that I have heard from activists is that when people start to criticize the government on these kind of policies, the tentacles of information control will start to creep. And there's an even greater need now for Indonesians to rebuild civic spaces, to protect media freedom, to defend digital rights, the right to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds by any means.
Thank you, Khairil, for that extensive overview on how internet spaces and tech regulation are impacting Indonesia. Let's go more broadly to Siti. As someone who has been very involved, deeply with the data analysis with the iMAP report, what do you think is the most unexpected finding this year?
I think one unexpected finding was that there were still some countries that had less censored websites, or no changes in terms of internet censorship, like Thailand, Philippines, and also Cambodia. There are still some censorship. It's just that they aren't blocking anything new. But it might be a few reasons, like they may be self-censorship and so on. Or they may be because that the information control has been changed to social media instead, and that's where all the censorship happens. So there are many reasons that attribute to it. Not necessarily there were less censorship. It's just that there is a different kind of censorship that is happening in these countries. And on the other hand, I think another surprising thing was the Indonesian Trust Positive that has been more stringent in their methods. And this was also followed by Malaysia shortly after in August, which was outside of the coverage period. So a lot of more stringent methods like DNS hijacking, IP blocking, and also some blocking of DOT that is happening in these countries. And we foresee that, it's very worrying that these countries start to implement these methods because it also affects the internet resilience.
Thank you, Siti. So I want to go back to Sochit, right? In the discussion earlier, and as Siti mentioned, most independent media and human rights websites are blocked in Cambodia. So what steps can Cambodia, and as a country or governments, can take to improve the transparency or accountability in its internet regulation policies?
Yes, it was government issue internet gateways in Cambodia last few years, but mandatory for private company and government institution to have the internet khmer.com, but for civil society still advocating not to implement internet gateway fully for civil society, and but for the Cambodia has no internet security law, internet cybercrime law, or data protection law, or that's and no access to information law. That's all are important laws to ensure the right of citizen for privacy, data protection, and access to information and protect their rights. At the same time, also to fight against those like illegal gambling or illegal uh, like uh, some kind of in Cambodia, a lot of related online issue, illegal online gambling or human trafficking related, and these are quite a concern in Cambodia and also a region that and also currently human rights activists and environmental activists are quite concerned that a number of them were arrested in prison, and those who mostly express their opinion, their voice on through social media. So we are quite concerned that Cambodia have no those important laws to privacy, protect the data, personal, and also protect the human right of the expression through online. And even social media in Cambodia, Facebook are most popular platform that for the way for expression of interest, for expression of right of expression. But civil society Cambodia try to provide legal analysis inputs and improve the law, a number of law, data protection law, cyber crime law, and also the data protection law, access information laws with respect of international standard, with protect of international laws that Cambodian constitution ratifying those international law. Yeah, but government drafted those law a number of years, but now speed up the process. They did consultation with small group of NGO, when one NGO, but we have thousands of NGO in Cambodia, but also government claim to consult on the number of private sector, but it was not, it was analyzed the draft of cybercrime law and the draft of the access to information law and the draft of the personal data protection law. Those law was not met international standard yet. That's why civil society try our engagement, provide legal inputs and public consultation that a lot of Cambodian people use social media are the main tools to communicate, so they should not be in like restricted through different voices. Yes.
Thank you. Seems a lot of work that needs to be done to improve its Cambodia's internet regulation policies. Thank you, Sachit, for that. I wanna move on and continue the conversation and go back to Khairil, right? As presented in the presentation earlier, Indonesia is one of country that have published a list of the websites at the blog, right? So from findings of iMAP report, if you compare it to the Trust Positive database, I wonder if you can explain what extent the censorship that are available these both sites. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to add to what CT mentioned, like the kind of the ways that the Indonesian government has made information less accessible is incredible. So, like Siti said, in the past you can easily access the database, the whole ministry website, but now they geo-blocked it, right? Only IP addresses from Indonesia can access. So it limits what researchers from outside of Indonesia can do. Another way they've restricted this database is that in the past you could put in bulk queries to the database. You can look up, I think, up to 100 domain names in the database, but now they've limited it. And then after you've put in certain number of queries, you get blocked. You have to change your VPN and use another IP address. So it has they've purposely make it harder to, for people to just access information on what is being censored. But back to your question, from over 600 sites that we found to be blocked or likely blocked, around half are not listed on the Trust Positive database as at July this year, right? So this is not a definite confirmation, but we feel the disparity, the gap of 50% is strong enough indicator that ISPs in Indonesia may potentially be blocking websites more than what they are mandated to do by the government. So as a comparison, the gap was just under 25% in the previous period, 2022, 2023. But we had only 1.5 million measurements, and we covered around 2.8K websites. In the latest report this year, where there's 50% gap, we have doubled the number of measurements, and we've covered few websites, around 2,500 websites. So of course, most of the websites are in the categories of pornography and gambling. This is consistent with the government statistics of blocked sites and our own findings through UNI measurements. We can theorize and speculate why there's a jump in the percentage, but the more important questions are, why are the ISPs doing this, and how are they doing this? Are there pressures within the telecommunications industry to kind of over-censor the internet? What kind of power dynamics are at play here? Are they, being threatened? Well, not threatened. Are there different levers being pulled by the government to kind of, to make them behave like this, right? And also, what is the impact of this kind of internet fragmentation on the right to information, for example, on public services, on businesses? So we have partners in Indonesia who work closely with ISPs and the Ministry of Communication. And when we got them to ask these kind of questions, the kind of response they get back pretty much, stock answers about, the responsibility to promote internet sehat dan aman, healthy and safe internet in Indonesia. So this is not helpful because a lot of network filtering and online censorship come at an economic cost, right? It's not free to maintain such an expensive system, filtering system, network interference system. But more importantly, the cost of fundamental right to freedom of expression. So to date, there is no easy, open, and transparent mechanism to dispute or reverse any unmandated blocking, right? You probably have to engage a lawyer and send a civil claim. And the lack of procedural proprietary means this could be weaponized against marginalized communities, against grassroots activists and political dissenters.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a big jump. What do we have a data on? What kind of websites are more blocked? That's not in Trust Positive database compared to iMAP. Do we know what kind of websites?
From our point of view, it's consistent with the categorization. Well, there's kind of a bit of a mismatch in terms of how the government statistics categorize and how we categorize with this and test list, but the top ones are pretty consistent. So gambling, pornography, I can't remember what was the third one. So the match is the same, but I suspect the gap is just about the rapidness of the government putting websites on the list and then remove the website from the list if they comply with certain laws. Because I think the difference in terms of tracking is also different, right? Because iMAP, we track over a period of time, but with the Trust Positive, we can only do the comparison at one point of the time because it's just not practical to check every website at every single measurement. So there's that 50%, 25 to 50% gap, but I think that the important thing is not the magnitude of the difference, right? The important thing is, why is there even a difference at all? Does it mean Trust Positive is not fit for purpose, right? If the government if the ISP is doing extra to what they are mandated to do, then what is the point of having Trust Positive in the first place? So these kind of questions, I think, what we wish we can get answers, but it's not so easy in the way things are in Indonesia.
Thank you, Khairil. Siti, I want to um, go into Malaysia a little bit. How does method of censorship, internet censorship in Malaysia differ from those, different from those, other country in Southeast Asia? And do you find any challenges in analyzing that data?
For me, when I look at analysis, when I look at the data for all the countries, actually, Malaysia is it's the easiest in terms of the analysis because it's very straightforward. There is only one blocking address that the government or the authority called MCMC uses, and all websites that are blocked by any ISP should go to that address. For until now that we know. So it is very straightforward. Like in terms, it suits the UNI pipeline or their methodology of identifying censorship. So it is very straightforward compared to other countries, like for example Hong Kong and Cambodia, which we have a lot of hard time confirming what is actually blocked or not, because each ISP is doing their own way, and there is no block pages that come up when we access those block websites. So this is the difference between Malaysia and the other countries.
Right. So perhaps we can have learnings from other countries on how to that have done it, so that we can use it for next year, I suppose. Yeah. Thanks, Siti, for sharing that. So in this final round, I'll go back to Sochit, and I wanted to know if I wonder if you can share how does internet censorship practices in Cambodia have impacted civil society in general. The work that the great work that we have done, the organization have done, and how does it impacted political events like elections, for example.
Yeah, uh, it's like Cambodia last year was a general election. That there was no main opposition political party joined the election. So that's and also the independent media will also block their website for international news or independent news related to election and other in the election periods, campaign periods. So it's and civil society also were part of the website that promoted democracy, human rights, and election education. Something like that will also fall block, and then and those who express their opinion regarding to political related the discussion of pluralism political party, which Cambodian constitution uphold this constitutional right of political party democracy election, but still were limited of participation of different voices, different main political party in the election. I think that quite affected to the Cambodian democracy system and freedom of expression through online and platform, which is already said that Cambodia has no law to protect freedom of expression online, and therefore those who express different opinions regarding to political opinion, regarding to different opinion on social, political, and economics also harassed or were arrested in different individual up to the interpretation of law, legal enforcement official case by case or individually interpret on the law. So That's why it really affect to the Cambodian civil society as a whole that could not freely express their opinion during or before or after the general election up to now, when a number of people were arrested more and more on different opinions on different political, economic collaboration in Cambodian, Laos, Vietnam's collaboration, economic collaboration, or other political environmental activists. Those were mainly expressed online because face-to-face physical public gathering were not allowed recently in Cambodia. So the only platform online were important for civil society, especially after COVID. Online platform were very much important and useful for the public opinion, but also government pay much attention to monitor the public opinion through the online platform. For those who have different opinion from political party, from human rights activists, political activists, or environmental activists, are subject to be in different way of monitor or censorship or harass, or some of them are like arrested. That's what we have seen recently. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope that the good work say carrying on despite all the um, challenges that you face. So I wonder, in the case of Indonesia, for example, Hairil, um, when the stringent regulation or more tightening regulation on internet, how does civil society or activists navigate, such restrictions?
Hmm. Well, tightening regulation on internet freedom is happening everywhere, right? All over the world. Sometimes in the civil society, we treat regulation like a dirty word, and we dance around it because we've witnessed how bad laws and policies were made in the past. So, realistically speaking, we will have even more poorly conceived laws and policies governing the internet in Indonesia, in Southeast Asia, everywhere. So the question here, I think, what role do civil society organizations, do grassroots activists play? Um, digital rights advocacy in Indonesia is actually quite exciting. Right? There's a vibrant community of activists, technologists, activists working on different things. Beyond the usual calling out violations of rights, campaigning for protection of rights, I think CSOs and activists can be more strategic in their engagement with the government. We need to be more we need to be able to seize the opportunities that are presented to us, right? So, for example, when engaging with the government and formulating a new regulatory framework on AI, we have to be clear with our position that there's no rush for us to import and duplicate, copy and paste, laws and policies from other jurisdictions. Our stance, at least at EM, is that we need to first strengthen the existing regulatory framework on online personal data protection, on digital consumer protection, on cybersecurity, for example. Um, Oppressive provisions in the IT law have to be repealed, right? So instead of introducing a new set of laws, review existing laws, especially those that have gaps in the implementation and in the enforcement. So I think it's important for CSOs who are at the consultation table to push back against positions that are usually taken by big tech companies that are detrimental to the rights of the people. So if we don't want the government to co-opt their positions, we need to be ready to offer our own alternatives, to give our own solutions. So that's why projects like UNI are important, right? We need to give our policy ideas. We need to brief people, decision makers, with data, with evidence. So it's probably too late to dismantle the information control infrastructure like Trust Positive, or to reverse regressive regulation like the PSE law. But I think we can seize the opportunity to steer the government in the right direction, especially when there is an opening, when they're a bit more receptive to be engaged in certain areas. Another area that I think there's huge potential for is the is strategic litigation, which I think something that Indonesian civil society could explore more. We should bring more internet freedom test cases to court and argue not just the constitutional of laws and policies and actions of the state, but also look at the state obligations under international human rights treaties like ICCPR, ICESCR, and others. I think we need to empower more litigators who can persuade the court to interpret Indonesian laws consistent with normative human rights standards, especially when it comes to internet freedom and digital rights. So this work does not happen overnight. It requires capacity building, network building, field building, practice building, and so on.
Let's hope that that could be the next phase of the project. I think we have a lot of civil society who has experience in strategic litigation and bring that tech expertise into digital spaces as well. So thanks, Harry, for that. CT, in terms of DNS tampering or hijacking, the trends that we're seeing in Malaysia, how does this method differ if you compare it to other countries in the region?
I think the DNS hijacking in Malaysia, it happened quite recently. So I think just for context for anyone who is not familiar with what happened in Malaysia. So recently, I think this is outside of the coverage period, so it's not really covered in the current iMAP reports. But recently, I think just 2 months ago, that Malaysia, the government started to implement DNS hijacking, where public DNS like Google or Cloudflare was redirected to the the government blocking address, and so that people who used to use those kind of DNS to circumvent the censorship are now no longer weren't able to access those DNS anymore. So that is what we call the DNS hijacking. And it has been reversed recently back, and after a few weeks of implementing it, the government reversed the policy because of a lot of backlash. But based on our research, we also found that Indonesia and also India had also implemented it way before Malaysia had. But we need more research on this. That's why we are coming up with the DNS hijacking reports after this.
I think that's a nice segue to some questions that we have from the chat box from the I think this is could be directed to CT. Nan from Engage Media was asking whether if you can speak about new web surveillance and censorship system and how would this may enhance the Myanmar government VPN blocking capability.
To be honest, I don't know much about the censorship, the new system, other than it was by a Chinese company, or few Chinese companies. I have to check, but it definitely has worsened the situation on using the internet in Myanmar, and it has enhanced the VPN capability. Like even from anecdote feedback from our partners, like it is very hard to use VPN nowadays in Myanmar. You have to use one and then suddenly it's not available, and then you use another one, then you try again. Like you have to use many VPNs just to get through. Like let's say you want to use Facebook to message someone. So it has become more difficult for them, and given the situation, it is also difficult to actually monitor those events, and it's quite hard because we want to also monitor and document those events, but it is also difficult because of this. Obviously, because of we will prioritize physical security. But yeah, I don't know if anyone who is but this is also a chance, like if there is anyone interested to because we are lacking measurements on Myanmar, it'd be also good that if anyone can help us to reach out to more people who are on the ground, who is available to, who can, although it is very difficult to run the UNI test in Myanmar. But yeah, so this is how the system has, whether it's affected directly, we don't know, but it definitely has increased like the blocking of VPN in Myanmar.
Thank you, Siti. As for the audience, if you have any questions that you would like all the panelists to answer, please feel free to type it in the chat box, and then you can flag it and be part of the discussion today. I have some general questions. If any of the panelists who have worked on this report, how do you, as someone who work on this report, how do you want this report to be used in your country? Right?
Shall I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We've been talking about, kind of, how do we want to use the data for the longest time, right? So there have been a lot of ideas, and I think one idea that's still underexplored is probably litigation, public interest litigation. So in countries where there's, kind of, reasonably good um, judicial system, like, like the Philippines, like Malaysia, like Indonesia, India, I think we should take up cases, right? Use, try to see how you can use the UNI data as evidence. We have, I think, during the global gathering, we had sharing from other partners about this strategy, but I think I've yet to see how it materializes in, in our region yet. So it'd be exciting to do that, and then, there might be questions, there might be more questions, because I think, like, one example that I can give is like when the blocking of news websites happened in the Philippines years ago. That was an opportunity. For example, like, had we captured the blocking in UNI data, we could have used that and submitted to court, and show that, look, this is evidence of blocking. Because in that particular case, for example, the one on Bulat Lat, when the judge look at the case and open it on her laptop and say, oh, it's not blocked, and just dismiss the case, right? Only after they refile again and a lot of pressure, there's more meat to the case, and it was considered more seriously. So and this actually comes a lot from, how, well, the lack of understanding of how internet works. Sometimes, you already have, different recursive DNS used in your network. You do not know, so you think like it's not blocked, or you use certain internet, a certain network, like, in schools or in companies, certain websites are blocked, you think it's already blocked. So I think there's also opportunity for a bit of education around, just basic how internet works. And then when people understand more how internet works, there's also, opportunity to talk about, how can we as internet users take on the responsibility of, governing our own internet consumption, right? Like, why do governments need to block gambling websites and pornographic websites? We can self-regulate, right? Parents can regulate themselves. So this kind of questions, I think, I hope can come out of from from the work that we do, from the work that other groups do. Yeah, so let's do it.
As I understand it, Sochit, Cambodia also recently released their report, right? I wonder, you want to share how people can use this report in your country?
Yeah, it was released on the 18th October, last few days, when we conducted Phnom Penh Internet Forum, 2 days, and there were a number of government representatives and different groups of people and civil society and government private sector joined the Phnom Penh Internet Forum, and we presented the Internet Censorship report release and dialogue, and give them as evidence that we have monitored like around 2,000 websites every day through our own prop, and then our finding is evidence-based finding. It is useful for dialogue with government with the evidence regarding to two aspects of the improving the current draft law on cybercrime law, cyber security law, data protection laws, and access to information law. So in Cambodia, there are a number of important laws to be approved, to be adopted and implemented that to ensure protection of privacy, protection of citizen right of expression through online, and to have a better law meeting the international standard and international human rights laws. But at the same time, we also engage with government law enforcement officials to discuss more how do illegal gambling, illegal child pornography, all kind of some kind of criminals online that should be evident to those for discussion with government, but at the same time not block those human rights activists or environmental activists website or those LGBTIQ people website. That's very important because in Cambodia quite like early age of having the law, but most of people in Cambodia enjoy website, social media so much, and many of the population use that. That we need protection of their expression online, and I think API plan the UD report for engagement further with government, different ministry to how to use the report as evidence, because API plan to conduct more policy dialogue related evidence and report, and how we can have the better law for the country to protect human rights and freedom of expression online, access to information, at the same time protect privacy and protect the data, and also not only of citizen but also data of the government and data of the private sector, which are very important for economics. And as I said, Cambodia is one of the country where a lot of bad illegal gambling, like also bad in terms of no restriction at all for child. I use internet for all kind of content, everything including with our education, with our digital literacy, with our that's important for vulnerability of the fraud or harassment, especially online harassment, and all kind of that also need to be pay attention to address that issue.
Right, thank you. This seems like there's a lot of potential in terms of use for this report. So I want to bring the discussion on the data that was provided by UNICEF and how reliable it is. Maybe let's go a little bit of technical, right? Maybe CT or Khairi want to touch on this. You know, whether margin of error, whether it's useful at the first place when you use data by UNI. So yeah, because we're bringing this report to a lot of stakeholders, and how reliable is the data, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll answer that. I would say, I mean, if I say that it's reliable, you can just say trust me. Yeah, but it's a data collected by a lot of people. It's not something that I mean, we also collect the data from our own devices and all that, but it's also collected through volunteers and people we don't even know through their phones in their own countries. So that basis itself, it's a very open project, and from Uni's side, there's a lot of processing involved. They don't really say that something is censored unless there is some kind of blog page or some kind of news report that says that that address is a blog address that is by the authority or by the internet provider. So and but it is also very hard to differentiate because there is something and that's why even at iMAP, I will process the data even further from our end based on latest information that we've got, um, so that the data is more accurate, like in the latest like in the like what is available is the most accurate version of the data. Um, but of course, there is still some false positives, and also there is still some false negatives that we need to be cautious of. But it doesn't mean that the data is not reliable at all. It can be used for advocacy. Websites that we confirm as blockings are definitely blocking, and that's why we have in this round of reports we have further differentiate the blockings into confirm and also likely, so that we are more cautious about the terms that we use. Um, yeah, so whatever that we say that is confirmed, it is definitely through some sort of evidence that says that the government is blocking it, or the news report that is blocking it. So it is quite reliable, and of course it's also an open project. The data is available on GitHub. If there are any errors or in the reports there are any misinterpretations, you can also email us and we will do corrections as necessary. I hope that helps.
Can I add one thing, Numan?
Please. Yeah.
So this question about margin of error was asked last year, if I remember correctly, and I was a bit miffed because I didn't take the time to kind of explain, right? So I think it comes from the view, a misunderstanding of how the methodology, the how Uniprobe works, right? So I would say margin of error is not a useful measure because we are not because we are random testing a non-random sample of um, websites, right? So the test list, there's no way for us to test all the websites in the world, in the world on the internet, in one country. We only choose a random set of websites from the test list of websites contributors to the project think is interesting or important or useful to track, right? So when we use margin of error as a measure of reliability, I think that's wrong. Where we should look at is like what Siti explained, right? So how robust is the fingerprints, looking at the fingerprints, how easy is it to detect false positives and false negatives, where, well, CT has given you the long answer, but the short answer is it is reliable. Very minimal kind of variation from what is confirmed to be blocked or confirmed to be okay, and then if there are anomalies, it will clearly shown as anomaly.
Right. Thank you. I'm also conscious of the time. So we're gonna do one round of question with all the panelists, maybe 2 minutes each. What are your expectation on the state of internet censorship in the countries that you work on from now onwards? Would it gonna be improving better? What was your take, right? Moving forward. Yeah, let's start with CT probably.
Yeah, I think like I can speak for a bit on Malaysia and maybe the overall. So for Malaysia, I think because there was a reverse policy, it might still be the same, but we will still keep monitoring and see if there is anything new that they will try to implement. There is a new social media regulation that they're trying to implement, and we don't know what that comes with, what kind of censorship that they will bring to with that new law or new regulation, and we will keep monitoring for that. I don't know if it will worsen or improve, but hopefully when we have more this kind of reports and we have because we got a lot of attention from other tech communities. We hope that those kind of this kind of information or reporting or monitoring will help to balance the actions taken by the government. Yeah.
Khairil?
My colleague Nan from Engage Media in Thailand mentioned about Myanmar. I think when we think about the state of internet, the state of the internet, we shouldn't, look just in specific countries, right? So if you look at across the region, for example, the issue that Nan highlighted in Myanmar is actually very important, and you know each one of us has a role to play to kind of pressure our governments, to take more stern measures against the military rule in Myanmar, especially when the regional mechanism has not really worked, right? We see even more, violation of rights on the ground and not just on the internet. So I think there are more to do with, kind of building a movement in the region, building, solidarity in the region, and also kind of look at what tangible steps we can take as civil society collective in the region, right? Because the issues that happen in Myanmar can easily happen, in other countries, in Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia. We never know, right? So if we don't build this movement, this resilience, it's easy for this kind of um, evil forces to win. Sorry.
Yeah, versus is the right word to say to describe it. So Chid, your take, expectation on state of
Ye-
yeah.
Yeah, civil society in Cambodia, Access to Information Working Group, Digital Rights, urge government of Cambodia and internet companies remove restrictions on the website, particularly relevant to news websites, and enforce a press law provision relevant to the news website rather than blocking them, and also urge governments to block those websites who running illegal online gambling or child pornography or illegal related to human trafficking or fraud, instead of blocking the human rights organization or environmental activists or organization website. And we also, based on our legal analysis on report, monitoring report, we also recommend our government to improve the laws and adopt the current law, drafting law, and on internet gateway, and amendment the press law as well as draft law on cybercrime law and cyber security law, access to information laws, and improve all those laws to meet the international standards that promote exercise freedom of expression, association, comply with the strict requirement of the Article 19 and promote civil political rights on human rights. Thank you.
Right. So we're at the end of the discussion for the iMAP 2024 launch. I want to thank all the panelists for sharing their thoughts and findings from the research, and for all the audience who have shared their thoughts and comments. Um, I hope we can carry on the work we're doing as a check and balance, so that we can, as Khairil aptly mentioned, ensure the resilience of the internet for all of us across region. So over to you, Siti, for closing. Thank you again, everyone. Please download the report and let's stay in touch.
Thank
Thanks,
you
everyone.
for everyone participation, speakers and moderator and participants online.
Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, to all the panel. Yeah, so let me just yeah, so I'm just putting out this slide so that everyone can have like have a view on like the contact details. I just put out the link is available in the QR on this video on the corner. You can download our reports. Please read them and do give feedback if you have anything additional. We will have another round of reports next year in 2025 with all these partners again, covering the same countries, most likely the same countries. And yeah, if you have any questions, do email us. And thank you for joining us. This video will still be available. If you have missed the earlier parts, you can rewatch. It will also be available on the website. Thank you so much for joining, and hope you can have a nice day. Thank you.